Hey guys, welcome to this episode of Pondering the Process, where we embark on a journey of discovery with some of the most creative minds in the community and explore the making of their latest projects. Our guest today is Alana, who's here to talk about one of her most recently commissioned pieces titled Symphony. Join us on this deep dive into the mind behind the piece. Hey Alana, can you hear me?
Hi! Yes, I can!
Hi, how you doing?
Good, you?
I'm alright, thank you. So Alana, thank you so much for taking your time to come join me on this. I really appreciate the fact that you were able to come talk about your piece.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm really excited about this opportunity.
Oh yeah, same here. I'm really excited to talk to you. We're going to talk about your piece titled Symphony. I really love it. It has a lot of bright colors in there, and I'm usually a fan of bright colors, and it was like you're trying to express something, which kind of matches the title called Symphony.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, really love it. So just based on this, can you give us an overview about your process for creating this piece? Like, how did you come up with the idea for the swirl pattern? What techniques did you use? Was there anything in particular that inspired you to put this on canvas?
Yeah, so my process, in this case, this piece was a commission, but my process always starts the same way. I always start with a mind map, and immediately after speaking with my client about the size and the color palette, I always start with a poster board, and I kind of start writing out my ideas, the descriptive words that I want to use to inspire the piece. In this case, the client wanted the words warm, sunny, vibrant, and happy. She really just wanted this piece to brighten up her home. So I used those words to kind of inspire the color palette and the movement in the piece. So I always start by sketching out small thumbnails to kind of figure out the movement that I want the piece to have. And I start experimenting with colors to figure out what the palette will be. And in terms of the swirl pattern, it was loosely planned. I never really plan exactly what my pieces are going to turn out to be. I kind of just get lost in the process. But yeah, the swirl pattern was loosely planned, but it took shape as I worked. The inspiration behind the swirls was kind of an abstract take on a road or a pathway. My focus was kind of trying to create like a push and pull effect to make the viewer's eye go around the canvas rather than one focal point. A big thing I like to try and convey is a lot of depth in my pieces. So that's how the swirl pattern kind of came about. Lots of different colors and shapes and marks overlapping, and yeah.
I see. So you mentioned earlier how the client said, I want something warm and vibrant, but did they also give you creative freedom? Because you just mentioned how you kind of evolved as you worked.
Yeah, so she definitely gave me a lot of creative freedom. Really, it was just those descriptive words that she gave me. She just said, yeah, warm, sunny, and vibrant and happy. So those were really the words that I was working with, kind of tapping into some of my most treasured memories and just thinking about those. But yes, complete creative freedom, really.
Oh, I see. So was the circular shape of the canvas also something that you decided to add as having some significance in the piece, or were you always just going to use a circular canvas?
So the circular shape was definitely significant. I asked the client if they would be okay with the circular canvas, and they said they would love it that way. But I love making abstract art on round surfaces because I feel like it complements the organic shapes and marks that I make pretty well. I rarely use straight lines or edges in my work. I prefer the kind of imperfect human elements, kind of because in nature you don't see a lot of straight lines and perfect edges and stuff like that. So I kind of like the idea of it reflecting nature. I also am a fan of the circular shape because since I do abstract art rather than representational art, I feel like it's kind of like a portal. When it's round, it's kind of like a portal into the unseen world. That's the way that I think about abstract art. It's the things that are unseen, like feelings and emotions. So I really like that idea of it kind of being a portal.
I see. And now that you mentioned that it's reflecting nature, I kind of see that too. It's almost like a landscape of colors.
Yeah,
Not
I
the
like to
visual.
kind of think of it as like an internal landscape. But yeah, you can definitely probably see elements of nature with the colors.
Oh, that's pretty neat though. So, was it an easy process expressing your feelings into the canvas, or were there times when you had to almost push yourself because you didn't feel like you were getting what you wanted?
Yeah, so I think that the process of trying to put your emotions into art can be a little bit difficult, but something that I like to do well in the process is I love listening to music. I feel like music can definitely alter your mood, and I always listen to happy music. I try not to listen to anything with a negative message, especially when I'm making art, because I feel that there should also be happy art in the world. So I like to listen to like the rhythm of the music and really let that influence the movement. And I love using my body to kind of get that movement in. I think that's a big part of abstract art.
That makes sense. And before the interview, right, just on Instagram, you mentioned how the piece was also inspired by warm summer afternoon that you spent with your friends, right?
Yeah.
You've already mentioned how music sways your mood in that sense. Could you also tell us how this was translated into the artwork?
Yeah. So yeah, like I was saying before, when she told me she wanted like happy, sunny, vibrant, that just kind of makes me think about some of my most treasured moments. And when I think of those moments, it's often when I'm around the people that I love, usually outside in nature and listening to music. So yeah, my mind immediately went to those memories. And I like to translate those elements of memory and music into my work just throughout the whole flow of the composition, and also colors. To me, those colors say happiness and liveliness. And yeah, for me, it just makes me think of a warm summer day.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure like anyone viewing this piece as well does have the same feeling of warmth and vibrance. At least that's the kind of emotion that's being invoked in me as I look at it. So
Oh, good.
yeah.
Yeah, and another thing about the color palette, I feel like sometimes when I talk to people about my artwork, they kind of perceive it as having a bit of like a childlike element because of the bright colors that I choose. I really like hearing that because childhood was a time when we expressed and created without judgment of ourselves. It was a very authentic time. And since my art is more about the process and remaining present in the moment while creating, I don't plan how the final piece looks. I really like that. I like linking it to a childlike feeling.
I love that analogy, right? Especially the whole childhood being one time without judgment. That's an amazing way to look at it, actually. Yeah, there's no other time that you probably were creating without any distractions. You had all the time in the world. Yeah, love that.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, me personally, though, when I listen to music, I'll be honest, I don't listen to happy music all the time. It's not like because I'm sad or anything, but I do feel like sometimes you can also use music to switch your mood. So, for example, me as a person, if I'm feeling too weak, I like to listen to rock music just to
Yeah,
lift myself up, right? If I'm feeling sad, sometimes I like to listen to happy music. Sometimes I like to listen to sad music when I'm sad, but it's not because I want to stay sad. It's just because it just fits the aesthetic at that point, if that makes sense.
absolutely. Yes, I think all music is its own type of art as well. And I think listening to other people's experiences helps you weigh your own experiences too. And there's something so beautiful about it. I definitely listen to different types of music at different times as well. I just like to make myself feel more powerful and confident by listening to, I guess, more positive music while I'm making art, because I don't want my art to necessarily reflect those sad times. But, different things work for different people, but that's just the way that I look at it.
Yeah. And that makes perfect sense, right? If you want to have happy thoughts, think of happy music and things that make you happy.
Yeah.
Okay. And I already mentioned this before, but the title of this is called Symphony. Could you tell us about the significance of the title with regards to the piece?
Yeah, for sure. So when I finished this piece, I actually had it up in my studio for a few days. And I was thinking about the title. I was thinking about calling it like a warm, sunny day or something like that, but it just didn't quite feel right. So I had it up for a while. I was thinking about it. And I actually had some family and friends that would come through my studio. and someone said, well, that looks like a symphony of color. And I thought, oh, right there, that's the perfect description. The title, it worked perfectly because I feel like the collection of movements in the piece worked really harmoniously, just like in a musical symphony.
That is the perfect description, actually. Everything just fits so well.
Yeah.
Love it. Yeah, you see, it's nice to hear that you're also getting inspired by your friends, just in general. You know, not a lot of people have that.
Yeah, for sure. It's hard sometimes. I think that as an artist, sometimes I don't want to hear other people's opinions about my art. I can be very, very sensitive about it. But sometimes I think it's really good to listen to feedback and to try and take how other people are perceiving it into how you are looking at it. It's refreshing to get another perspective.
Exactly. I personally have a method which people think is kind of weird, but if I'm working on a creative piece, right, because I sometimes dabble in art myself and I also work in software. So if someone comes and says something critical about it, yeah, it does get to me sometimes, but what I end up doing is I think about it, and if I'm at crossroads, right, if I kind of see where the person is coming from, but I'm conflicted as to whether I want to implement said change, I do this thing where I give myself odds and just roll dice. And depending on right, if the dice shows, okay, do the change that this person suggested, I do that. If not, I just leave it as is. I only do that in times of conflict. If someone suggests something that I don't think fits my vision at all, then I'm going to tell them, I get where you're coming from, but it doesn't fit my vision at all. But if they tell me something that actually does cause conflict in my brain, I usually roll dice. My friends think it's weird, but it works for me, so I just keep doing it.
I like that a lot, actually. Maybe I should try doing that. I get what you're saying. If it's a definite no, then you can tell them, no, thank you. But yeah, if you're conflicted, then maybe that's the push that you needed. That's exactly what you need. Yeah.
Yeah. It works, honestly. At least for me, it takes off so much weight off my shoulders when it comes to decision making. So it's usually when I'm just at crossroads that I see no end in sight. I'm like, all right, just gonna roll dice.
I like that a lot, actually.
Thanks. Okay, so could you tell us a bit about your choice to use acrylic paint on Birchwood?
Yes, for sure. So I choose to use acrylic paint because of its fast dry time. I've worked a lot with oil paint as well, but I find maybe it's because I like abstract art, and abstract art in itself, you have to be a little bit impulsive and kind of just get the paint down. I didn't want to risk the paint smudging, because that's a risk that you run with oil paint just because it dries so incredibly slowly. And I wanted to keep some of that wood, the natural wood, showing. So I had to be very intentional with how I placed the paint, and I wanted it to dry really quickly so I would avoid smudging the paint onto the birchwood. So yeah, that's why I chose acrylic paint. It was a bit difficult working with those areas of exposed wood, because if I did get paint on it, then I wouldn't be able to just paint over it, because then I'd be painting over the natural finish of the wood. And I chose the birchwood panel because I just love the natural pattern and color of the wood, as well as its durability. I find that sometimes traditional canvas can be kind of loose, or it can sag a bit in the process. And I just love when the final product is stronger on wood. I also thought that it fit well with the theme after speaking with my client. Just thinking about like the sun and those natural elements, I just thought that the wood would go really well with that theme.
I see. And did you have to do much prep for the wood, or you just used it as is?
So I've worked with wood one other time, and I primed it first with actually just like a wood finisher, like that you would use on a deck or wherever, and that worked really well, but I didn't leave any of the natural wood color untouched. So this time I did not use a primer, and an issue that I kind of ran into is that the wood was quite porous. It absorbed a lot of the paint, so that was a bit of a challenge. But yeah, so no, not really any preparation for that, but I did finish the piece with a varnish at the end. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And do you think the piece would have come out any different if you had used oil paints? Because you mentioned how you work as you go, you evolve as you go. So do you think if you had used a different medium, like you mentioned oil paint, if you had used that, do you think it would have come out any different, or do you think you would have probably still had something similar to the final piece that you have now?
It's hard to say, but I'm pretty sure it would have turned out different. I struggle a bit with I struggle in general with knowing when a piece is finished, as I'm sure most artists do. You think, oh, it looks great at this point, but could it use a little bit more, or did I do too much, and then I'm sure every single artist has overdone their work a little bit and regretted it. So yeah, with oil paint, because of its slow drying time, when I work with it, I tend to just work on it for weeks, sometimes months, and I change things because you can with that medium. So I think that it probably would have looked a lot different because I would have changed it up a lot. And that's why I like acrylic paint, because it's kind of like once you put it down, there's no going back. That's how it is. You can paint over it, but you can't actually change it.
I see. That makes sense. So, do you have any tips for aspiring artists that want to work with bold colors and expressive colors and patterns like you did in this piece?
Yeah, I actually do. So my tips for aspiring artists interested in this kind of work would definitely be to experiment as much as possible. If it pops into your mind, just do it. That's the hardest part, is just making as much art as possible. I'd also say use your body to create movement, because motion is one of the important elements in creating abstract art. And definitely do your research and learn about composition, negative space, and how to create tension in your work.
Yeah, that's amazing advice.
Thank you.
Advice. I always love asking experienced artists if they have any tips, because no one ever gives me the same answer twice.
Yeah.
So, one of the reasons why we do these videos is not only to get into the mind of the creative, but we also do it with the hope that people who are aspiring artists can also watch them and immediately learn what goes behind creating a piece, right? And also maybe get some tips. And then even people who are not really into creativity can appreciate more what goes into creating a piece, right? Because I feel like a lot of people see the final work, but they don't actually know what's behind the piece. So that's what we do.
For sure.
So thank you for that. It's great advice. People are going to love it.
Awesome.
Yeah. So how does this piece fit into your larger body of work as an artist?
So I'd say that this piece is a little bit different than my usual work. It was a bit more restrained in terms of like the mark making that I chose. Typically when I work on a piece, I'll use a lot of drips and like a lot of splatters of paints to kind of get that expression down. But working with this Birchwood panel, I was a little bit concerned about how the drips would go onto the wood because it was a little bit more porous. So I was definitely a little bit more restrained with this. It was a bit more tedious work, but I actually really enjoyed how it came out. So I guess it's just like a different way of working. But yeah, I think it definitely fits into the rest of my work. If you saw it next to some of my other work, you would probably be able to tell it's the same artist.
I see. And would you do this again? Like, would you go through using Birchwood, even with the restrictions that you faced? Would you want to recreate this piece again, given opportunity?
That's a good question. I think if somebody had commissioned it and they requested that the wood be shown, I think I would definitely do it again. But being, like I said, a little bit more restrained and intentional with the mark making, I probably wouldn't do it if it was a piece that wasn't a commission. Or maybe I would do a smaller study to see how the more fluid paint, the drips and the splatters would work. Yeah, probably not again unless it was a commission.
I see. So based on that, right, so you've mentioned how you felt restrained and how the wood was porous while you were working, so you absorbed some of the paint. Do you have any other challenges that you faced while working on this piece, apart from the ones you've mentioned, or was that a general summary of all the issues you had?
So yeah, working with the wood for like one of the first times working with it, that was definitely the biggest challenge. But I'd say another one was the color palette, because the client had asked for warm and sunny. Those were the two main descriptive words that she used. I was just planning on working with red, orange, and yellow, but I found as I started working that it needed some more contrast. It needed like a pop of blue, and I was struggling a little bit to not put my hand in the entire crayon box with all the colors. I tend to do that a lot. I tend to like to add a lot of color, but I realized she did ask for specifically my style, so I shouldn't try and restrain myself too much. So I definitely injected myself into the work and let myself use whatever colors I thought fit with it.
Nice. I mean, it came out great.
Thank you.
I'm sure your client is pretty happy with this piece.
She is, yes. I have to ship it off to her here pretty soon.
Oh, nice. Nice. Do you think you're going to have any challenges with shipping, just considering the materials you used?
It might be a little bit heavier than usual because typically when I have somebody commission something, it's normally on canvas and you can remove that from the frame and then you can roll it up and ship it quite easily. This one, obviously, you can't roll the wood up, so it might be a little bit more difficult, but I think I'll get it done. I've shipped my fair share of big paintings before, so I think it'll be all right.
Nice. I feel like that would be something that people who follow you on social media would like to see. Just like like a video of you prepping this for shipping. Because I'm also interested too, I'll be honest.
Oh, that's really good to know, actually. Yeah, people do seem to be interested in the things that I wouldn't necessarily think they'd be interested in. But the entire process includes shipping. So yeah, I'll definitely consider that. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. You'll be surprised, honestly, at what people get interested in the creative space.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you have any upcoming projects or exhibitions that you're excited about that you'd love to share?
Yeah, so I do have a series coming out soon. It's called Lavender Haze, working with a lot of purples and greens. And I've been keeping it a bit of a secret for a little while. I'm very excited to share it. I actually worked with a commissioner, someone commissioned a painting, and we ended up talking a lot over the last few months, and I ended up making quite a large series, actually. And I'm talking to the commissioner about a release date at the moment, but on my Instagram, Alana Sorgi Art, you'll be the first to know when that comes out, hopefully in the next couple months.
That's pretty exciting, honestly. Lavender Haze, for the audience, anyone who decides to go on Alana's Instagram, I will put it on the video, right? So everyone sees it. And
Awesome.
I'm looking forward to it too.
Awesome, thank you.
Nice. So, Alana, thank you. That's all the questions I have about the piece titled Symphony. Now I just wanted to talk to you a bit about the Udocreatives app.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't know if you've had a chance to actually go through the app or download it and install it. Have you?
I did, yes, actually, I have.
Okay, so I guess how was the sign-up process just in general?
Oh, the sign-up process was so easy. It was very, very straightforward. That's something that I really, really enjoy about the app. Everything is so straightforward and intuitive. It's incredibly easy to use.
Oh, thank you. We've been working hard on that. So I guess, do you have any feature that stands out for you based on what you've seen?
Yeah, well, I liked the quick post function. I thought it was, again, very quick and easy to use. I also really liked the glances feature to kind of see what people are up to and, again, see the process of people's artwork. I guess I enjoy seeing people's processes. So, yeah, it's really nice to see that.
Oh, thank you. So, yeah, we actually launched the app about, 6 months ago, maybe? So it's not been out there for that long. And we're actually still doing a soft launch, right? So we haven't even finished the app per se, but we feel like it's at the point where people can start using it, which is why it's already out. So a few features that I just want to point out, which I think you might like as a creative. So starting with the posts. So you mentioned the quick post, but I don't know if you ever saw the journeys post.
I haven't looked into that yet, no.
Oh, okay. So the journeys feature is pretty interesting, right? So as opposed to putting a quick post, which is like, you're putting the final version of your piece, with the journeys feature, you're basically putting the entire process on the app, right? So let's say, for example, you want to start working on Lavender Haze, right? Mm-hmm. You've prepared your canvas, but you don't have your final piece yet, right? You can go on the app, start a journey, call it Lavender Haze. Right? The first post in the journey would be you prepping the canvas, for example. right?
Mm-hmm.
And as you hit more milestones, so let's say you decide, okay, these are the colors I want to use, right? This is the thumbnail I've used. You can upload those to that journey. And then when you finish the piece, right, you can go to the complete journey button and then it will ask you to put in the final piece. So then this way, as opposed to people just seeing the final piece, they see the holistic process, right? The entire story of the piece from when it started to when it ended.
That is a really, really awesome idea. It would be great to have a place to see how far you've come instead of looking through your whole camera roll. And because when I edit my process videos together, it'll be over the span of like a few weeks to create a piece. So that's a really, really interesting function to kind of see it all in one place.
Yeah, thank you. So, yeah, that's one thing we're pretty proud of. Well, one of the reasons why we decide to do it that way is because if you go on people's timelines, usually, right, especially people who are working on multiple pieces at a time, you can't really pinpoint what videos lead to what piece. So, what we've decided to do is allow you to group it and be like, oh, okay, this piece, these are the videos that led, or the pictures, right, that led to this piece. So that way, instead of you going around the timeline and searching for, oh, what was the next step in this, it's almost like this is now arranged for you. It's basically grouped for you, so you know
That's
exactly what you're
awesome.
looking for. Thank you.
Such a good idea.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. We've been working really hard on this app, so it's really great when we hear people giving good feedback too. And I'm happy that you were able to sign up easily and you enjoyed using it so far.
I can't believe that something like this doesn't already exist. It's such an awesome idea and a great place, a safe place for artists to talk to each other, a dedicated space for them to have meaningful conversations about their art. And I can think of a lot of different uses for this app. It would have been useful for me when I was in art school a few years ago, again, with storing your process and stuff like that. When you have so many different artworks going on, like you were saying before, trying to find the process for one specific artwork, like that would have been really nice for me to have had a few years ago, just to track my process and keep it all in one space. And yeah, I just think it's an awesome idea.
Thank you. Thank you. There's also a bunch of other features which we have, like the spotlight page, which is supposed to be the inspirational part of the app, right? So what we've done is we give randomized posts from different artists, different styles. So that way, anyone who goes on the spotlight page can basically gather inspiration from other people from the most unlikeliest places. So you might not know you like abstract art, but then you see an abstract piece in the spotlight section and you're like, okay, you know what, let me try recreate that in my own style. So things like that. We also have discussions, which is one of the features we really like. So it's mostly tailored towards growth in that sense. So people can ask questions to the entire community, get feedback, teach each other. And you've already mentioned about the glances. I don't really need to go into that too much. But one other thing about the discussions is you can actually discuss a piece. So every time you put a piece on there, someone can always go to the discussion section and ask you questions about your piece directly, right? Or they can decide to ask the whole community. And then we also have an events feature, so you can put events, and it doesn't matter what kind of event, right? Like, because this app is not just for professionals, it's for everyone, right? So it could be someone who just has a hobby in art, it could be random person who just likes big drawings, it could be someone who just enjoys looking at pictures all day, or videos. We've tried to make it welcoming for everyone. So just based on that, right, we've tried to make, like you said, a safe space. So back to the events feature, let's assume you're hosting friends and maybe you're doing like a sip and paint at your house, right? You can decide to put that in the app, for example. Or if you have a gallery event, a show, something of the sort, right? You can put that on the app. So there's no restriction on what you can put on the app. Basically, we just ask that if you're putting anything that's adult themed per se, you have to flag it so that it doesn't just show up on people's things, right? Or you can get banned, which I guess is fair.
Yeah.
Right? We're even trying to come out with a new feature called tutorials, where we just have small video tutorials of different steps that people might want to see. So for example, you preparing Symphony for shipments, we could basically use that as a tutorial video. So anyone who's never worked with Birchwood can go on the app and be like, oh, how do I package my Birchwood work for shipment? And then they have like a small video just showing them what to do, right? That isn't out yet, but that's one of the places we're trying to get to. So basically,
I think that would be a great idea, especially since you're trying to have anybody, like you said, of all experience levels. I think that would be really helpful for aspiring artists to learn new things.
Yeah, we're still building up that part of the app, coming soon.
Yeah.
So one more thing is the fact that, like I said, we're pretty happy that the response has been good. So if you can just help us share it with your friends or people you know who are interested in art, we'll really appreciate it.
Of course, yes.
Thank you. Because we do feel like this app is really important, right? We don't even encourage sales on the app per se, because we don't want it to be about money. We want it to be less of a social media or just an art gallery app. No, we want it to be a tool, right? Mm-hmm. So let's say an artist with their paintbrush, or a writer with their, I guess now it's tablets, it's no longer pens, right? So we would like this to be a tool where every creative going about their day has this as a tool.
Yes, for sure.
All right. So thanks, Alana. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for your kind words. It's so refreshing to see creativity done with a lot of warmth and joy, right? So thank you for sharing that with us.
Oh, thank you so much. And thank you so much for this opportunity and for the thoughtful questions. It was really, really nice to talk to you.
Oh, same here.
Yeah, I'm just grateful that we had this conversation and that I had a chance to talk about my art. This is one of the first times I've ever done anything like this, and hopefully there are plenty more in the future.
Oh, for sure. So, like I said, you could tell your friends if they want to be featured like this. We plan on releasing a video every week. If you have a new piece, like when Lavender Haze is out, if you want to showcase it again, just message us and we will be happy to do this again.
Awesome.
Or if you just want to talk about random topics like how to price your art, all of those things, we would also be willing to talk about those too.
Awesome. All right. Well, that's great to know. I'll definitely be in contact in the future with you.
Yeah, same here. Thanks, Alana.
Thank you so much.
All right, then have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.